Hi, my name is Kathy Moyne and we're here at Green Thumb Nursery today to talk about dormant roses and how to plant them and take care of them. So, I'm going to start off with explaining what I mean by dormant rose. Used to be, we would carry roses this time of year called bare root roses. And bare root in its own term is basically that. There's not really a whole lot of soil involved, it's just roots. And then they used to pack them in sawdust, and then they had a little plastic bag. So you have a plastic bag with these canes sticking up out of the bag. And then it was not as easy to take care of those. If they didn't sell right away, we had to get them out of the bags and get them potted up. So, or if you took them home and you set them down somewhere and you forgot about them and then came back, and the night times they would not be alive. So they've come to doing these a little bit different. So they're still cut way back. The roots are not really developed in here, so you could call them bare root, but they put them in pots, pulp pots, and those pulp pots break down, or you just kind of peel those pots off, which is I'd rather do, is kind of peel those pots off because it takes a while for those pulp pots to break down, and the roses are ready, the roots are ready to get into the soil. So I'm going to show you how to plant one of these so you can kind of see what I'm talking about as we go. I'll explain it some more. These are, like I said, we call them dormant roses. So I still call them bare root roses. And when I talk to people about them on the phone, this is what they ask for, bare root roses, and this is what they're getting. But like I said, they are in pots. So what that does for us is if they don't sell real fast, we can hang on to them for a while. They'll actually start sprouting and growing in the pot. So these will actually, and they're already budding right now. They're starting to pop, getting ready to leaf out already. So all that good rain that we had, thank you, has really helped a lot. And also, if you take them home and don't get them planted right away, then they're also going to be kind of like in their own little pot. So I think this is a better way to go, and I'm happy that we've gone this way because it's just much easier for you and us. So there we go. These are what we call dormant roses. So when you're choosing a dormant rose, you want to try to find one that has at least 3 good canes. Now, as you can see, this one here, he's got 5 good canes. And they're evenly, these are grafted onto a rootstock. So you can kind of see down in the middle there, that's where the graft is. And so you want to hopefully find some that are evenly grafted around the center here. So it has an openness to the center. We want to try to keep the center open, give it better air circulation so we have less problems with diseases and insects. So if you don't have good air circulation in the center, then all that stuff starts getting a little diseasey and a little buggy, and so it just causes problems. So we want them to be open. Now you want to have, like I said, at least 3 canes. This has got 5. Sometimes they'll come and they'll have some crossing in the middle. Normally I would take those out. And as you can see, I'm going to be planting another one over here that this is a little bit different, and I'll talk about that one. But a lot of times I'll say to people, just let them grow, because sometimes one of these branches will die off. So if you would have cut out the center one, you might have needed that. Now, as the rose gets older, and if you've seen it in my other videos talking about pruning roses, as it gets older, you can work on the structure. So it's not like if something's all lopsided, you're not going to be able, it's never going to be a good rose. These are all grade 1 roses. We make sure that we get grade 1. That means that you've got at least 3 canes that are a quarter of an inch or larger, at least on the hybrid teas and the grandifloras. The floribundas are a little bit different because they're smaller, and again, I'll talk about that one a little bit later. But on your hybrid teas and grandifloras, you should have at least 3 canes a quarter of an inch or larger. So as you can see, we've made that grade on this one here. So both of our growers, Weeks and Star, go through and make sure that they give us the #1 quality. So that's what we try to give to our customers. And when we buy our potted roses, we also try to get those grade 1 quality roses. So that being said, now you know what the grade means and how to choose your rose. Now that we've chosen our rose, today I am going to pot up. This one is actually a Patio Rose. And as you can see, the canes are a lot smaller. There's a lot more of them in there. Looks almost like a raspberry bush, kind of, with all the little thorns and things in there. This one's not too bad. There's not a whole lot of thorns on here. This one is, like I said, called a Patio Rose, so the flowers are going to be a little bit smaller. But I like this because we can put this in a pot. So I got a pot here, and as you can see, this pot is really not that big. And a lot of people, I think, make a mistake of getting their roses and throwing them in a great big pot. These don't have much roots in here, and as you're going to see, if you put a small root ball in a great big pot, that root ball kind of just swims in there and it doesn't get a chance to do what it wants to do. The top dries out a little too much, the bottom may stay a little too wet, it's inconsistent throughout the pot. So don't try to skip this step. Put it in just a little bit bigger pot than it's in right now, and let it sit in there for a year or two. And this one, being a smaller rose, it can probably stay in this pot for 3 or 4 years before we need to do anything with it. So again, don't pot it up too big. I don't know, people want to skip a step and put them in a great big pot and just let them go, but they take forever to get rooted and established, and then sometimes they just die on you because they're not getting what they need. So again, don't put too big of a pot on your roses when you're planting them new. Now this guy here, like I said, is a Patio Rose, and this is called Midnight Moon. And I'm just gonna have to cut this bag right off of here. I'm not gonna waste any time trying to pull this out. Now when I get this off, you're going to see that pot that I was talking about. And you can also see that there's soil in here. There is no sawdust, or except for what's in the actual the soil mix. So these are in a potting soil. So now I'm going to put a screen on the bottom. I got a pot with this, got a drain hole in there, and you got to make sure that your pot's drained. Now clay pots naturally have a little bit better air circulation for them because they're more porous. Anything that's glazed on the outside is going to hold the moisture a little bit longer in the pot. So if you're like me and you forget to water, or you just don't want to go out and water because you're too busy doing other stuff, things that are glazed or plastic are going to hold water a little bit longer, so that kind of gives you a little bit more time between the waterings. Or if you're one of those people who like to go out and water as therapy, then you want to make sure you get a pot that's going to drain and has good air circulation. So this pot is perfect for this rose, at least as far as I'm concerned. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to take this pot apart. Now if you don't want to take this out of the pot, you can actually just make sure that you peel off the top layer. Now if you're planting this in the ground, you could do this. You just want to take the top layer off, because if you leave that out of the soil, it's going to wick the moisture out of your root ball area. So you don't want that to happen. Now you can also take your knife and slice it up the sides. So what that'll do is that'll encourage it to go through that pot a little bit faster. But for me, I would rather, I'll just go ahead and do this, show you so that you can see what I'm talking about. I would rather just peel it off, because again, I think it takes too long for this paper to break down, and these roses are ready to go. Now you can see I do have some roots down here, up here, are actually sticking out of the top of the pot, but that's okay. They're not dead, they're not dry. So, and I'm also going to shake some of this soil off of the crown, because we don't want the crown buried. Now in other places where it's really hot or really cold in the winter, you might actually cover that graft area. Now as you can see, there's my graft right there in the middle, and this has already got some roots growing in here, some little roots that are these little white roots. This thing is ready to go, and that's a beautiful root structure here. So I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of this soil to put in the bottom, just to kind of take up some space. But now I'm going to, oh boy, I got a big old mess right here. I'm going to use a combo of 2 soils. For pots, I want to use a potting soil. Planter's mix goes in the soil. So we do carry an EB Stone rose mix that you can use for in the soil. You can use the rose mix in pots. For me, it's a little barky, So I would rather just use a potting soil and then add a little bit azalea camellia mix. Now roses are slightly acidic. They like it below 7 on the alkaline scale. So I'm going to be using, this is, get him out of the way so I don't knock him off. This is Fox Farms potting soil, and I like to use this one for, this is called Ocean Forest is the name, the brand, or the type of Fox Farms potting soil it is. And I like this one. This is just a really good all-purpose potting soil. And then what I'll do is I'll add a couple handfuls of the EB Stone Azalea Camellia mix. And this is going to help to give me a little more acidity. Now you can also put this one directly in the pot if you want to. But I just like to get, because this one has a little different source of materials, so it'll give it a little, kind of like eating a full rounded vegetable food meal with all kinds of good stuff in it. And that just kind of gives them more nutrition. So I'm just going to mix these two together, kind of mix them in the pot. And then I'm going to position my rose in such a way, and this would be if you were doing it in the ground as well. So you're going to make like a mound in the middle, and then you're going to tuck these little roots down around that mound. So I'm going to fill up the bottom here with some soil, and then make like a little cone for the roots to kind of go around. And then now we do carry a product called Super Thrive. I didn't bring it out today because it's not really necessary, but if you wanted to give your rose an even better chance of surviving, you can also use Super Thrive, which is a growth hormone, or it has a growth hormone in it. It has some vitamins and growth hormones in it, but with all the other good stuff that we're going to throw in here, it's not really necessary. But if you've got it at home, you can certainly use it. And again, I should have brought some over here so I could at least show it to you. Okay, so I'm kind of making a cone here, and let's see if that's right about where we need it to be. Yeah, that's right about where we need it to be. So I'm going to start tucking these roots down in here. Now when I'm done, I want the crown of this rose to be down into the soil a little bit. Oh, he's gonna fight me here. That's always great about live video. Well, see, you get to learn what I have to deal with, so you're gonna be able to see what to do when you are dealing with this. Okay, so I'm gonna manipulate a little bit. So now my soil level, I'm hoping, is where my hand is going to be, and that's going to give me about 1 inch worth of area from the top of the pot. Now you want to do that so that when you water, you can fill this up and actually give it a good drinking. If you put your soil way up at the top, you're already overflowing before you even get a chance to get some water into this pot. You want to give them about 1 to 2 gallons worth of water, at least in a pot this size, to give them a good saturation. Roses like water, but they also like to dry out between those nice waterings. You could give it 10 gallons worth of water as long as it drained out and not overwater it. It's when you don't wait for it to dry out and you water it again that you have the issue with too much water. So again, deep soak it and then let it dry out like a wrung out sponge, not bone dry, but like a wrung out sponge. And in cooler weather, like in winter time, you might be able to go 2 weeks before you need to water it if you really saturate it well. In the summer, when it's 100 and something, you might be watering it every 3 or 4 days. Now clay, because it dries out a lot faster, this guy is actually going to dry out a lot faster. Now before I get all the way to the top, I've still got a ways to go. I'm not going to do it here because I make a mess, but I'll take and water this in so that it kind of settles the soil down around the root ball. But before I do that, I'm going to put in, or would do that, I'm going to put in some fertilizers. So this one is called fish bone meal, and this is made by Down to Earth. They have really good products. They're all organic, and they source the materials from reputable sources. And I like the results I get from their products. Now this one, bone meal, helps with the roots and the flowers. It does have some nitrogen in it. As you can see, there's 3 numbers on here. 3 numbers. The first number is nitrogen, second number is phosphorus, third number is potassium. The nitrogen gives its greening and growth, and the phosphorus is what we're after, is the bone meal. And that is what's going to stimulate root growth, which is why we didn't really need the Super Thrive. Although if you do use Super Thrive and this at the same time, it's not going to cause any problems. So I like to do a couple handfuls. You don't have, because this has nitrogen in it, I don't want to go too crazy with it. But if you have just straight bone meal with no nitrogen in it at all, you could give it a couple handfuls and it's not going to cause a problem, even more than that, because phosphorus doesn't burn. But again, you don't have everything in moderation. Just like if you eat too much of one thing, sometimes it's not that good for you. So you know, less is more sometimes. But in the bone meal world, it's pretty easy to use and it's not dangerous. Whereas if you use too much nitrogen, that could be dangerous. That's what burns. Okay, so the next one I'm going to do, this is BioLife. And this one here is got the nitrogen. As you can see, it's got more nitrogen. So this would be more like regular fertilizer. But I like this one because it has mycorrhizae fungus. Mycorrhizae fungus is a naturally occurring fungus that happens in the soil that puts a barrier between the roots and the soil, and it helps them to assimilate water. It helps them to fight off disease. Now I'm not going to do a ton of this. I'm going to do about a tablespoon, and because this one does have nitrogen, and with the other nitrogen, if I put too much in here, it could burn it. And I have burned with this product before. It will burn if you put too much on, and I'm talking from experience here because I have burned things with this product. But because it's, you know, great, I gotta put a lot of it on there, but you don't. It just a little, maybe a tablespoon for a pot this size. And anyway, that mycorrhizae fungus that's in here will help those roots to get going and get into, because the roots are what breaks or what uptakes nutrients for the rose and water. So if your roots are happy and healthy, your rose should be happy and healthy. Again, that kind of goes back to, if you have healthy soil, you have healthy plants. Okay, so now I'm going to put, this one is called Azomite. And this is a trace mineral product. It's a volcanic product. And what this does is it helps to bring in your trace minerals. I just started using this product, I think it was last year, on some other stuff that I was doing. Plants, veggies, and things that I was growing. Oh my gosh, what a huge difference. This stuff is like a miracle product. Again, you don't have to worry about overdoing this one because there's no nitrogen in it. It's just minerals. So if you overdo it, you're just wasting it. But I like to use it in excess, almost a good handful or maybe 2. Now this one is pelletized, so it's going to last a little bit longer than, we had another one that was a little more finer. So it's going to break down a little bit faster. This one is more going to be like a controlled release fertilizer or a mineralizer, but makes a huge difference in the greenness of the leaves, just the overall health of the plant. Okay, so now, oh, we don't want to forget our Epsom salts. We're also going to put some Epsom salts on here. And what this is a magnesium, so it helps the plant to, again, assimilate nutrients and just grow better. I mean, it just, something about it makes the cell wall stronger so that they can be more disease resistant. It's just overall health of the plant. Again, I'm not going to go crazy with this, because if you overdo it, magnesium can actually cause a problem. Again, with everything, with moderation. So I'm using maybe about a tablespoon right here. Now, again, this can be applied later on in the season. And as I go through this season in the spring, we're going to have some more classes on fertilizing and taking care of roses as they're growing, because we do sell a lot of roses, so a lot of people like these things. And if you do it right, and you do it in the right spot, and you water them properly, and you give them good air circulation, and you love them, they will love you and give you lots and lots of flowers, and hopefully no diseases. So now we're going to put another little layer here of soil. Now this is before I put the soil in here. If I had my water going, I would go ahead and water that in, just to kind of water in some of that fertilizer, and so that it's not all concentrated in that one area. And I'll do that when we're done here. But when you're doing it, you can certainly water it in at this point. Now I'm going to put a little fertilizer there. Now what I'm going to, soil. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to top dress this with Malibu compost. Yay! We love Malibu compost. This stuff here is like a miracle soil. It actually causes your soil to be healthy. And it's got lots of great little microorganisms in here that wake up your soil. And what the microorganisms do is they break up all that great little fertilizer and that stuff that we just put in the pot, and makes it available to the plant. They can't uptake that fertilizer that I just stuck in there the way it is. It has to be broken down. And what this product does here is it actually will jumpstart those microorganisms, and it'll make them move a little bit faster. They'll eat up the fertilizer and convert it into what the plant needs to survive, humectic acids and things like that. So this product, I put it on everything. You can make tea. Well, they do sell a compost tea that's made out of this. You can make your own compost tea, and I spray it all over everything, and it's amazing what this product does. And we've had so many people, when it first came out, I was like, sure, it's just like every other compost that you sell. But it's not. This is a really good product. They're very picky about where they get their source of manure and how they do it. Very strict in the way they do things, and which is why I really like their product. So as you can see now, and also during the summer, this is going to help the plant to fight drought. Hopefully we won't have the drought. We'll get lots of rain this year and we won't have a drought. So here is your potted up rose. Now, before I would water it again. Now what I'm going to do, just because we newly planted this, I'm going to take a little bit of the potting soil and I'm going to place it over the crown of the plant. And the reason I'm doing that is because sometimes when you first plant these, they can dry out. Now we've had some really good rain, and I hope that continues. But if it doesn't, and we go back to our normal California winter where it's warm and dry, it can be a little drier in the wintertime. It seems like I'm always putting lotion on when I'm in the winter. That'll keep this graft from drying out. Now as this rose starts to leaf out, and you can already see it's starting to leaf out, then I can start washing this soil off. But for now, I'm going to let this crown kind of be protected and from drying out by putting a little bit of soil on the crown there. So, but you can see it's above the level of the soil. So as you water it, you'll slowly start to water that soil off of it anyway, but try to keep it on there as long as possible until it leaves out. Once it leaves out, then you can wash that down and expose that crown. But you can see there's some crossing branches in here, and normally if this were like a potted rose, like something that I was buying that had been already rooted out, not a dormant rose, then I would trim these off. But I'm not going to. I'm going to leave them on. I'm going to fight my OCD. I'm going to leave them on. And then once everything leaves out and I know everything's going to survive, then I can go in there and start taking out these small little wimpy things. This guy here is already new, so he's going to grow out into the middle right here. So I might end up just taking this whole branch off. So, you know, we'll see. We'll visit it later. Maybe I can do a little, yeah, and that looks like it's a broken branch. But sometimes, yeah, it is a broken branch. I'm going to go ahead and take that off because there's no sense in wasting energy on a broken branch. Because, you know, the energy goes, whether it's dead or alive, it goes down that road. So we're going to take that road off. We're going to block it off and let that energy go to a road where it's going to do some good. So that is it. I think that's all I needed to do with this rose. I top dressed it, I fertilized it, gave him some Epsom salts and some stuff for the roots, and top dressed it with some good stuff. So that is it. If you like this video, please click like. If you would like to get more of these videos, hit the subscribe button and the bell, and that'll let you know when we got a new video. We're trying to do these videos at least weekly, and I'm hoping that you are enjoying these. Thank you for watching and have a good day.